morning because I've got on my big boy shorts and I am concerned when I look across the F1 landscape as a Lewis Hamilton fan, regardless of what the Cameron naysayers will say. I am concerned. This talk about sabbatical and then we're going to pick up again and push on next year once Lewis gets himself in that red car alongside Charles Leclerc feels like a false dawn, a false promise, proper Lewis Hamilton evangelism. And I can't do that. I can't get down with that. I'm an F1 fan first, Lewis Hamilton fan second. And what we're not going to do, never ever, is sacrifice truth and objective at the altar of partisanship and Lewis Hamilton fandom. I can't do it, not any longer, because these are the same people that said, you know what, keep the faith with Mercedes, they will turn it around. Mercedes are the 8-time constructors champions. They can't go too long failing. They'll be back on top soon. Well, what happened to that? Nonsense. W13 came and went, nothing. W14 came and went, nothing. 15 will come and go, no silverware yet again. I cannot, no, I shall not sacrifice truth and objective at the altar of partisanship and subjectivity. I cannot. I can't listen to them. They will say, oh, no, Lewis is just chilling out here. This is gardening leave settings. When he gets a car, when he gets in the red SF25 alongside Charles Leclerc, he will be God tier again. He will recover the championship form that saw him win 7 titles. Well, will he really? Will he really? And the reason why I bring this to you this morning is because I'm concerned on the back of Charles Leclerc's form this weekend. What he did this weekend was super impressive. Now, I've called him disparagingly the modern day Jean Alesi. The reason for that is because I think the tale of Charles Leclerc's career to date is one of unfulfilled potential. There has been flashes of brilliance, as there was with Jean Alesi. Super quick were both of them. However, Charles Leclerc, what's he won to date? Spoken to that recently in the Jay Shetty interview. Ultimately, he is here to win championships. In his mind, he is still number one, and he just needs to convince us of that by virtue of his performances. No one will ever say that Charles Leclerc is slow. On the contrary, F1 aficionados in May of 2024 broadly agree, point to point, A to B, Charles Leclerc is the quickest of the 20 currently on the grid, and there is my principal point of contention. When you get to 39, 40 years old, as Lewis Hamilton will be next year, alongside Charles Leclerc in that SF25 car, the first thing to go potentially is your pace in absolute terms. You will see it with all the goatiest ones. Mention no name, Sebastian Vettel. When he got to that stage of a career, and by the way, he was younger when he retired than will be Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari car. Sebastian Vettel's pace went away. He was a notoriously brilliant qualifier. Senna settings, he would chill out for the longest time in quali and then in the dying embers of the session go out and set a blistering lap. You remember that? Sebastian Vettel, 2010 to 2013. Qualifying pace was his strength. But the first thing that went towards the end of his career was what? That pace in absolute terms. When you're getting out qualified by Lance Stroll, then you know there is an issue if you are a Sebastian Vettel evangelist. What's going on with Lewis Hamilton now? Season to date, 7-1 he is down versus George Russell in qualifying. He said over the weekend that he won't out-qualify George Russell between now and the end of the season. What's that about? Are we alluding to sabotage? Is there foul play at hand? Are we talking about upgrades potentially that Lewis Hamilton won't get and George Russell will? Or is the underlying performance indicative of a tailing off of Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton? I do not know the answer to these questions, but I'm trying to paint a picture, connect the dots with a view to determine the underlying narrative. I'm not so sure at 40 years old that we can't write off Lewis Hamilton's qualifying performance against Charles Leclerc next year. You're going to tell me that you get out qualified by George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, 7-1 in the early going, and that we're going to chill out, take a sabbatical, go on gardening leave, flick a switch as of 2025 and start out qualifying ostensibly the quickest qualifier of the 20 currently on the grid. This is what we're saying. That doesn't even sound feasible. I can't even believe the words that are coming out my mouth, but this is what they are saying. The Lewis Hamilton evangelists, the diehards that worship nothing more than the feet of Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton. And yet again, for the avoidance of doubt, I'm not here to do that. I cannot, no, I shall not do it. No way am I going to sacrifice evidenceable, objective truth at the altar of partisanship and subjectivity. Hence why I'm so bloody concerned. People say that qualifying doesn't matter in F1 as at 2024, where the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend past is proof positive that yet and still you need to be able to out-qualify your teammates. Some say that in 2021, the losing of that championship wasn't Abu Dhabi and Michael Massey. It wasn't brake magic, but it was in qualifying. Because if you harbour hopes and aspirations of beating one Max Verstappen in 2024 onwards, then you need to out-qualify him, right? So difficult is that dude to overtake and pass. You can't take him and make it stick. He will take both of you off sometimes, some may say. So what does that mean then for Lewis? That means if he harbours aspirations of nailing the 8th, the ever elusive record-breaking 8th World Championship, then qualifying pace is probably more important than any of us realise. Going alongside Charles Leclerc, the quickest driver of the 20 point-to-point, will be no easy feat. He is built up and is still building. It's a work in progress. The team around himself and his strengths, they favour him. Charles Leclerc is their guy. French too, alongside Frédéric Vasseur, who is the team principal of the red team. It's going to be difficult, right? Lewis needs to go in there and utilise, leverage skills that have been left untouched. He will need to dust those off. It's not 2014 Lewis anymore. He's no longer a young pup, 39, soon to be 40 years old. What does that mean statistically? You guys have heard me chirp out this on a gazillion different occasions now, that not too many 40-year-olds have ever won world championships hitherto. Count them on one hand. Juan Manuel Fangio, 57. 66, Jack Brabham, as one other that evades me. Graham Hill, maybe. 68. 3 ever. That's not a lot of numbers. And those were 700 years ago. F1 is a very different sport in May of 2024, is it not? A young man's game, some will say. Oh, but what are you talking about, Cameron? Please see Tom Brady. Please see LeBron, who are going longer and deeper into their career. Well, they are the exceptions that prove the rule. Father Time is undefeated, undisputed. It's not a matter of if, but when your skills start dimming. Oh, well, F1 is different, Cameron. It's not 100 metres. The level, the extent to which physical endeavour matters and is a thing in F1 is very different as versus basketball or 100 metres. NFL even, you cannot compare the two. But that's not to say that the truism becomes false. As far as Father Time drip feeding into someone's performance in F1, NFL, athletics, football, soccer, whatever the case, it is a matter of when and not if. We need to have these big boy conversations around Sir Lewis Hamilton. When pitched at him, some of the comments this past weekend, he was irked, wasn't he? Didn't like it, didn't appreciate the suggestion that he's been out-qualified by his younger, fresher teammate, the chap who he accused of needing more PT time than him, one George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk. That was the reason why he started getting all these comments, because an interviewer asked him on the back of losing season to date, in qualifying terms, 7-1. What's your performance saying? Lewis is like, you know what? We'll get better. The car's not fantastic, but it is good now. We will get better. However, then he goes on to repeat to Natalie Pinkham. When asked about qualifying, I won't out-qualify George Russell between now and the end of the season. If he means that in earnest, Houston, we have a problem. Because never more than now, in May of 2024, has qualifying been important. If you harbour ambitions, Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton, of winning yourself a record-breaking 8th championship, then something needs to change. We need to have a big boy conversation. Sans Lewis Hamilton evangelist delusion. It can't be he's on sabbatical and all of a sudden he's going to turn on that switch. F1 is not a switch. It is a momentum game, a build. You can't go away for a year and not perform and then all of a sudden flick that back on. Not in a brand new team, not at Maranello, not alongside the quickest point-to-point driver in Charles Leclerc. It's not going to happen. We need to have a big boy conversation here and I am concerned, hence why I'm tabling it. Let's do the gap analysis. Lewis et al. Team/Colt LH. What needs to happen between now and 2025 for our guy, regardless of what the naysayers will say, to get back on top? A lot, in my humble opinion, not least of which is qualifying pace. This is not news. It's been happening before this year. Lewis needs to improve that qualifying pace if indeed he is to nail himself a record-breaking 8th. But I digress.